Back to the Whitfield Analysis on the Junior Factor Nation radio network. Folks, I have a story here that is so mind-shattering. It's unbelievably scary to me that there is no other way for me to begin this other than to read the story for you. First of all, a couple of things before I start reading this story that I want to make blatantly clear to you guys. First off, this story that I'm about to read to you is from Project Veritas. Now, Project Veritas, for those of you who don't know, is the think tank and the media firm of James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe is the young conservative journalist. He's probably about 29 or so now. And this is the guy who exposed the Acorn sex trafficking scandal. He was great friends with Andrew Breitbart, and he was demonized by the left. He was attacked. At one point he was arrested. But my point being is, this guy is a legitimate journalist. This isn't Alex Jones. This isn't any of those conspiracy sites. This is InfoWars. This is a legitimate journalist. The reason I'm telling you all this is because to some of you, this story may seem like a giant conspiracy theory, but it's not. This is real, and it's very scary. Headline: the government wants to decide who is a journalist and who isn't. Yes, you heard that right, folks. The government wants to decide who is a journalist and who isn't. Let me read you more. And this article was written on September 23rd, 2013. So it's not brand new, but it's recent enough. Let's listen to this. Ludicrous? Yes, I agree. But this isn't just something Congress is talking about doing. It's happening. A bill defining a journalist as an individual who, quote, works for a legitimate media entity, end quote, is going to hit the Senate floor for a vote. What qualifies as a quote-unquote legitimate media entity? Well, that's up to the government, of course. This law is an affront to the American people and just another Obama administration plot to control and censor the media. Just look at the unprecedented number of journalists who are working for the Obama administration, and those who aren't working directly for Obama are married to those who are. The only people doing real reporting are independent journalists, and it is exactly these journalists who won't be protected by this law. Now, folks, that was an extremely short article I just read you there. But make no mistake, this is happening. This is happening. Now, it's true that this bill is before Congress and it hasn't passed the House yet, to my knowledge. It is still up in the House. And many conservatives out there have said, well, Sam, this bill probably won't get passed because no one would stand for the First Amendment being violated like this. And folks, that may be true. That may be true. This bill may have a short lifespan. It may not get very far, and I hope that's the case. I hope to God that's the case. But folks, this pisses me off to no end. It is appalling to me that legislation like this is even going to the House. It is appalling to me that this type of crap is even going to Congress, and that it's even being considered. It's outrageous. I don't care if the bill has a slim chance of making it through. Guess what? The liberal left has always managed to one way or another pass ludicrous bills, i.e. Obamacare. And some of you may ask, well, who would stand to benefit from this? Duh, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, basically every mainstream media organization out there. This may not be a big story this week, folks. This may not be on the cover of Breitbart. This may not be on the cover of National Review. I know that the government shutdown is happening. I know that people have been freaked out about Syria, believe me. I've been following all the major news stories too, and they're important to cover, make no mistake about that. But the radical left is trying to keep this one under wraps. They don't want us to pay attention to it. And again, as I said before, this isn't Alex Jones. This isn't some conspiracy theory site. This is James O'Keefe, who exposed the Acorn sex trafficking scandal. So in the eyes of myself, and in the eyes of the majority of the American people, he already gained credibility as a journalist. This is dangerous, folks, and it not only is it dangerous for conservative journalists, it's dangerous for journalists of all type. Not that the liberal media is going to get affected very much by this, but still, any liberal who's a journalist worth his salt, I'll tell you something. No matter what political party you're with, if you're a journalist, or if you're in the media like I am, you should be infuriated. Infuriated with the fact that this bill even exists. If this bill goes through, which, again, God hoping it won't, but if they somehow slide through this monstrosity through Congress, and if we give the government power to redefine journalism, we're done. Because then the government can define who is a journalist and who isn't. And gee, they're not going to use that to manipulate the media of America and spread propaganda, even though they already have 98.9% 99% of the media outlets in their pocket. Oh wait, that's exactly what they're gonna do. That's exactly what they've done. Folks, they hate the fact that there is an opposition out there. They hate the fact that there is a conservative media out there, ladies and gentlemen. They have been doing their best to try and destroy the conservative media outlets. They have been doing their best to try and absolutely destroy any oppositional media. Now, folks, as some of you may have said, this bill might not get very far in Congress, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't, for the sake of the American people. But I'm telling you, just the fact that this bill is even making it through should terrify all of us. The fact that it's even going to Congress should be mind-shattering. You know, lots of you guys say that this bill won't go through. The only way this bill won't go through is if we let the government know that we are aware of this. And that we're not going to let this crap happen. Because, folks, if we don't keep an eye, listen, the government is an extremely dangerous entity. There's no question about that. But the mainstream media is also extremely dangerous. They are just as dangerous as this big, bloated government. The mainstream media is big and bloated, and they're corrupt too. They cover Obama's ass every chance they get. The mainstream media is not, and I repeat, not reporting the true story. They are not invested in true journalism. No. They are invested in spreading the liberal propaganda that the Obama administration puts out. Whatever Obama wants them to say, they say it. There are not that many conservative media outlets. We take up less than 2% of the media out there. Not even. And yet the left is terrified that this small group is out there, that this small opposition is out there. They are terrified of the fact that there is Breitbart. They're terrified of Breitbart News. They're terrified of National Review Online. They're terrified of James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. They're terrified of the Daily Caller. Hell, they're terrified of us here on Junior Factor Nation and Calgary Nation. They're terrified of us, the ragtag group of, high school and college students who are getting on radio with our little radio shows and disrupting their propaganda towards our generation. Do you realize that junior fractionation alone is a threat to them? Ladies and gentlemen, because we are an oppositional force to them trying to brainwash our generation. We are the resistance against liberal indoctrination. And they can't stand that. They can't stand the fact that there's another side in the media. And they always tell us, oh, well, you're not a real journalist, Sam Whitfield. You're not a real journalist. You don't have credentials. You're a conservative, and so therefore you can't be an objective journalist because you're a conservative and you hold right-wing views. Guess what, folks? I am perfectly fine to admit that I'm a right-wing journalist. Okay? But I'm still a journalist. I may be a journalist with bias, but damn it, I'm still a journalist at the end of the day. And I am willing to call out my own side on BS too. And to those of you who say, oh, well, Sam Whitfield's not a journalist, or Caden Kauk is not a journalist, or Andrew Breitbart was not a journalist, you guys who are saying that, look at yourselves. If you guys think that, we're not journalists because we hold a conservative opinion, well, then look at yourselves, mainstream media. MSNBC, Keith Olbermann. I'm watching you, Keith. I know you're on ESPN, but I'm still watching you. I'm still watching you, mainstream media, and I'm angry. I'm seething. Because you guys have been trying to destroy us. And you can't destroy us with your media. So now you're going to go to your cronies in Congress. You're trying to make a monopoly. You're trying to take over the media completely. I know that's what you're trying to do. I'm here to stop you. Jason's here to stop you. Caden's here to stop you. The entire Junior Factor Nation team is here to stop you. Breitbart's here to stop you. All of my friends in the conservative media movement. I've spread this thing around. We all know what's going on. I'm fired up. Because we are already on the brink of losing so many rights. I will be damned to hell if the First Amendment gets violated the way this bill intends. And for those of you who are saying it's not possible for this thing to pass, that it only has a very minute chance of it passing, that may be true. But guess what? Just because it has a slim chance does not mean it can't pass. And believe me, the left has tried to shut us down before. The Fairness Act, the Media Fairness Act, the Fairness Doctrine, they tried shutting down Rush Limbaugh with that. That got shut down. They tried passing that thing again, I don't know how many times. All because Rush Limbaugh was considered a threat to them. We are considered threats to the mainstream media. And yet we have a freedom to speak our minds, damn it. We have a right to speak our minds, and we are journalists. You know, the mainstream media is also pissed off that they couldn't just cover the Acorn scheme up, you know, all nice and neat. They couldn't protect Acorn, and they're upset because more people are waking up to the fact that Planned Parenthood is evil. They're upset because we exposed the fact that Anthony Weiner exposed himself and made a fool of the left. They're pissed off at us. And now that they can't discredit us, listen, that's the other thing they're pissed off about. I could keep going on and on. Long story short, they're trying to destroy us. The liberal media complex and this liberal government is trying to destroy the conservative media. The only thing that stands between the left taking over and the American people still remaining free is the conservative media movement. The grassroots conservative movement. We will not falter. We will not fail. I'm coming after you, NBC, CBS, CNN. When the old media fails, and it will eventually collapse, guess what? I'm buying 30 Rock, and that's going to become the new Junior Factor Nation headquarters. At least if I get my way. We're not taking this anymore. The old media will fail eventually. You've declared war on us. You're trying to shut us down. This is our answer. We're not going to take it. We're going to keep fighting. They cannot destroy us. We will remain strong. We will remain faithful. We will remain bold. And you have been warned. Everyone knows about this now. You won't be able to stop us. And if you try, dear God, if you try to pass this thing, if you try to make it into law, then I personally will organize a rally and we will march to Washington and we will protest and we will make our voices heard. You will not take our ability to spread our message away from us. We're not going to take it anymore. We're fed up and we're not going to take it anymore. Folks, I'm done tolerating the liberal media. I'm done tolerating the liberal bureaucrats in Washington. We're done. It's over. We're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to take it anymore. Folks, I'll be right back for closing statements. Hold on. We'll be right back.